Have you ever walked the elevated Bruce Hannon Levee Trail in Monticello and wondered how it got there? Or who built it and why? In 2024, Tetra Tech, in partnership with the Land Conservation Foundation and Prosperity Wind LLC, produced a cultural resource study of the trail to answer those questions. The Bruce Hannon Levee Trail is part of the Sangamon River Corridor Reserve and is managed by the Land Conservation Foundation, or LCF. LCF was founded in 2003 by Bruce Hannon and other local environmentalists who wanted to protect woods, wetlands, and wildlife habitats along rivers and creeks from development. In 2012, LCF purchased 108 acres of land just southwest of Monticello to create the reserve. The trail is a loop just over 2 miles long and sits on top of man-made levees. Levees, also known as embankments, are tall earthen structures built to control and direct water. They often run parallel to a water source to prevent overflow. They are similar to dams, though dams are built across a water source. These levees prevented flooding when the land was historically used for farming. Today, LCF is restoring the former farmland back to a floodplain forest. To understand the levee's historical significance, we must talk about Illinois' historical relationship with water control. When white settlers first arrived in Piatt County in the early 1820s, the area was made up of vast rolling plains with tall grass prairies. The land was naturally poorly drained, which caused frequent flooding and created wet prairies and swamps. This made farming and settlement extremely difficult. As the trail sits in the Sangamon River floodplain and was subject to frequent and seasonal flooding, it was quite unsuitable for farming. The land changed hands several times from its first owners in 1839, Samuel Abbott and William Stage, through the 1870s, as those who purchased the land quickly realized its lack of value. By the mid-1870s, Joseph Foster had improved some of the land, just enough for a small farm. He grew corn and potatoes and kept livestock, including cattle and pigs. Illinois passed legislation in 1879 that made more drainage projects possible throughout the state, and better drainage led to an increase in available farmland. 2 acts were passed, the Levee Act and the Farm Drainage Act. These laws are intertwined and were the result of about 30 years of prior legislation. In essence, the laws created drainage districts that facilitated cooperative efforts amongst landowners to construct levees and drainage ditches. Water isn't bound by property lines, so in order for drainage to actually work, projects needed to cover large swaths of land, often owned by several people. The first district in Piatt County was the Lake Fork Special Drainage District in the southeastern part of the county. Others soon followed. The land continued to change ownership periodically throughout the late 19th and early 20th century. It has been possessed by a few notable figures in Monticello history, including William Franklin Lodge and James Piatt Lodge. Agriculture was just one of many business ventures for the Lodge brothers, but it's unclear if they found any success farming on the land. Another Lodge brother, Fred, acquired the property in 1915 before selling it to Elverton and Zelma Cruz. Walter Troike and his wife Cleo owned the land from 1956 through 1963. Walter Troike owned a construction company that specialized in drainage projects, such as the digging of drainage ditches, dredging ditches, and building levees. By the time Troike acquired the land in April of 1956, he had operated his drainage construction business for over 25 years. The company was successful, and Troike worked on drainage projects all over the state of Illinois during his career. He constructed the levees on his property sometime between April of 1956 and June of 1960. The property changed hands a few more times until Lee and Sharon Tipsord purchased it in 1982. The Tipsords operated a farm on the land for 30 years, demonstrating the effectiveness of the levees. They owned the land until the Sangamon River Corridor Reserve's creation in 2012. LCF has preserved the 80-year-old levees by stabilizing them and utilizing the tops as a trail through the woods. By installing culverts at intervals through the levees, LCF is also encouraging the natural flooding patterns to the land surrounding the trail and therefore restoring the wetlands. In summation, the Bruce Hannon Levee Trail was constructed on top of levees built by Monticello resident Walter Troike between 1956 and 1960. The levees were meant to prevent natural patterns of flooding and make the land better for farming. This follows a long history of water control efforts in Illinois that has helped transform it into the agricultural center that it is today, adding $51.1 billion to the economy in 2023, according to the Illinois Farm Bureau. Next time you enjoy a stroll down the Bruce Hannon Levee Trail, see if you can name any other structures or objects people have built to manipulate water. What other reasons might humans want to control water? Do any other species control water? Hint: the teeth marks on the trees in the reserve aren't from people. Some of the sources Tetra Tech utilized for research on this project were atlas and plat maps, discussions with locals, historic newspaper articles, deed records, census records, aerial photography, and Emma Piatt's 1883 monograph, History of Piatt County. Tetra Tech visited Monticello in the winter of 2024 to research in the archives of the Piatt County Historical and Genealogical Society and to survey the trail and document current conditions. Tetra Tech would like to thank Dr. Deanna Glosser and the Land Conservation Foundation for trusting us with this work and for their stewardship of the reserve. We extend special thanks to the Piatt County Historical and Genealogical Society for their assistance during the research process.